Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carl Steinbeck here, Saturday night. Been thinking all day about this affidavit we saw that's filed in court. It's on the court filing for the Aidan Kearney case, but it has direct connections to this case as well. So I think it's really astounding and shocking, the allegations that are made. And it's something that it's very much along the lines of what I've been saying now for some weeks, is that the only way the Commonwealth can win against Karen Read is to hide the truth from the jury. And what do you know? They're trying to do stuff to hide stuff from the public and also engage in activity that involves Jen McCabe as well, according to this accusation. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and let's just walk through this affidavit here. I can drag it here. Hold on a second. If I have an open window, share screen. Okay, I think I need to share screen. No, that's not it. Stand by, please. Here it is. No. Yep. Okay, this is an affidavit. As you can see, it's filed in Norfolk County Superior Court. It's an affidavit involving this other Aidan Kearney case. And so this person got with the Kearney attorneys and has had this typed up, and she's swearing under oath. There's a female that wrote this, and we see her name, even though some of the stuff's blocked out, we see her name is Courtney Healey. So she does reside in Massachusetts, and she says she knows it's Catherine Peter. And here and after, they call her Peter in this affidavit. And she used to work for Aidan Kearney, and ever since then, she's had nothing but, I guess, bad blood between her and Aidan Kearney. She's even tried to get him arrested and stuff like that. I think it was successful in doing a lot of that. She's like a mortal enemy. He's a mortal enemy to her, and so I don't really know a lot of whole dynamics behind that. But like I say, she used to work for him or with him some years ago, and there was some kind of falling out, and now it's just like scorched earth what she's doing. And so what really jumps out at you here, though, is that this Peter saying that this Peter volunteered information to this lady about the Karen Read case countless times throughout her friendship. Everything's a factual representation below. And then the first thing she talks about here is during Karen Read's first trial, it was in regular communication. She was in regular communication with Assistant DA Adam Lally. And at one point during jury deliberations, Peter met with Adam Lally for lunch. And during the lunch meeting, Adam Lally told Peter that he knows the foreperson who is a retired police officer, and he, the juror, is guaranteeing a mistrial. This is what was verbally reported to me by Peter. Well, that's sort of odd, because if he knows Lally, then he shouldn't be on the jury. So there's some kind of relationship here that was not disclosed during jury selection. So that's a pretty serious thing to do as an attorney, especially the prosecutor on a murder case, that you're not going to disclose a relationship with a juror if you have that kind of relationship. So it's something that has to do with the first trial, not this trial, but still it goes to show that this if this was true, this would be misconduct on the part of Lally for not disclosing a relationship with this person. And is he, from the sounds of it, he's talking to this foreperson while the jury's undergoing deliberation. So I find that really hard to believe that he would actually be talking to him during jury selection. So I think if there was some kind of connection there, maybe he just is thinking that, well, he's a buddy of mine. We have some connections way back. I'm not gonna. He didn't bring it up in court. I'm not gonna say anything in court, and I just trust he's gonna vote my way because he's loyal to me. So, yeah. So it's one of these deals that it just reeks of corruption. So whether it's true or not, I mean, hearing all this stuff kind of come out, and then what I've been saying all along is it's a foreperson. When folks are saying in the chat that this has to do with, how could you get 12 people to, not acquit her on the second count, the manslaughter count? Well, guess what? Because you got a cop on the jury. So this cop on the jury's telling all the other 10, 11 jurors, this is not the way it works. Here's what's going on. And they pretty much just are able to just trick and bamboozle these other jurors into doing whatever they really set the tone for. And they can say, well, my experience, here's what's really going on. And jurors, they don't know. So they're just going to take it as absolute truth. So that's what I suspected was going on. So there's no way this would have been, as I've said, a hung jury if it wasn't for that foreperson. I really have always believed that. So moving on, then we have this Courtney saying that Peter told her that she's being paid $1,500 a month via Cash App for her assistance in the Karen Reed and Aiden Carding prosecution. So the Morrissey's office is giving her $1,500 each month. Okay, well, let's see what this is for. She says that Peter believes that Karen Reed's innocent, but she has to play the game. I interpret this to mean Peter's role is to publicly promote and advocate on social media that Reed is guilty. Peter reminded me that if anyone killed John, it was, and then that name is blanked out. So we don't know who that is, but we can take some guesses, wild guesses at it, I suppose. But she's sitting there saying that she's paying $1,500 a month to basically run a disinformation campaign or a public media relations campaign and trying to bring down Karen Reed and her defense team. I mean, that's really, really far-fetched, radical stuff. And, what are they using, public funds to try to do this? Or this is private funds coming out of Morrissey's pocket? Then she goes on to write or say that Peter is very close with Hank Brennan and have had multiple conversations and meeting with him. And she's personally heard Peter on the phone with Hank Brennan. Oh, that's a pretty specific comment there. And then she says, during a phone call with Peter and Brennan, I was present and personally recognized Hank Brennan's voice. Peter told him that her people leaked it to the media, referring to the federal investigation being over. So maybe like we've been saying, maybe this federal investigation isn't even over, just being put out there as some kind of like false leak by the DA's office. How can you trust this DA's office with anything, right? The next we have April 15th. Okay. Correction then. I guess it's not Courtney Healey. She's the witness to the affiant. It's not the person reporting this. So thanks for that clarification. She's saying during a phone call conversation between Hank and Peter, she was present for it and recognized Hank Brennan's voice and told him I already said that. Okay, so that was 10. Number 11, as of April 15, 2025, Peter's not talking directly to Hank. We're using a third party to communicate now. So, okay, during the trial, and now they're basically trying to have this third party communication. Wow, it's just so bizarre. And then she goes on to say Peter states that she is untouchable because of everything she's doing to assist the prosecution, that no matter what violations I'm charged with, Morrissey is keeping me out of jail. So that's the other thing that came out, is that supposedly this Peter has some kind of restraining order violations in 2 different courts. And so she's being kept out of jail by cooperating. And so Morrissey's got this sort of like a so-called drug deal with her. Hey, keep funneling the disinformation campaign about Karen Reed and her lawyers in exchange, I'll help keep you out of jail. So it looks like a quid pro quo type of corruption scandal here that is that very much is sounds like too far-fetched to be true, but it's something that defense needs to run to ground. And so this kind of stuff, it's like you can't make this stuff up at how crazy it sounds. But if it's true, there should be some serious ramifications here. Morrissey should not be in his job. This kind of stuff is correct, and it comes out that way. Next, she says that Peter asked me to go stalk Karen Reed in the seaport with her and stated that Karen Reed stays at the Omni Hotel. She stated to me that we can take photos to sell to the Daily Mail, and she's done that before. So that's pretty bizarre. Supposedly one of the photos that showed that her and Alan Jackson were embracing was AI created photo. It wasn't actually an accurate photo, a truthful photo. Next, Peter informed me that Jen McCabe brought her brand new sectional as compensation for her assistance. Well, that's a really weird thing to say. Jen McCabe's buying her a couch. But keep in mind, there's this running battle with this Aidan Kearney talking about Jen McCabe, confronting her, going to soccer games, saying she's involved in the killer of Officer John O'Keefe. He's also following her out of the courthouse. So there's bad blood between Aidan and Jennifer McCabe on this. Next, we have Peter was told by Jen McCabe that Jen McCabe informed Michael Morrissey that she's not testifying unless Turtle Boy's in jail. Michael Morrissey informed Jennifer McCabe he would then subpoena her, and Jennifer McCabe then told Morrissey, then I won't say what you want me to say. So, wow, this is really unraveling. And as I said last night when I was on the Young Jerks channel, and I've been saying this more than that as well, that the key for the whole defense is Jen McCabe. Jen McCabe is going to help them drive their points home. She's the one that has the most suspicious activity and the efforts of control of what's going on in the investigation. And so that's why she is all roads go through Jen McCabe's testimony, all roads for the defense of this being a setup and a frame job. So what do you know? Now we have her not willing to cooperate with the prosecution. I mean, this is like really serious stuff that it can affect the ability of the prosecution to keep their case held together. Because if you lose Jen McCabe and she starts waffling and stuff, it could get really bad for the prosecution, because they didn't have that problem in trial one. So with all this extra information on Jen McCabe now coming out, next we have Peter says she got rid of her phone the day after Aidan Kearney announced on his live show he was looking to get personal communications of Michael Morrissey. Peter said to me that they will never get communication between me and Morrissey. So she got rid of her phone. And wow, we've seen that before. Who gets away with throwing away phones? We've seen that with Higgins and Brian Albert. So this whole thing backing up to 15, she's not testifying unless Turtle Boy's in jail. So think about that. That's the kind of control that Jen McCabe's trying to put on Morrissey. Wow, that's something I'm going to circle back to. But that's really a manipulation ploy against the sitting DA. That's pretty amazing and serious, and it should be something that comes out at trial if this is accurate. Then again, on 17, it says, the day Peter showed up to protest at a Karen Reed trial, Peter informed me Jen McCabe paid me for her show of support. So now we got the DA paying her $1,500 a month, this Peter individual, and then we have Jen McCabe paying her as well and giving her a sectional couch. I mean, this sounds so crazy. Then on March 16, 2025, Peter told me that she went to meet with Michael Morrissey and Jen McCabe in an undisclosed location in Braintree. So now you have covert meetings going on with Jen McCabe and Morrissey, and then they would meet with this Peter person. I mean, sounds so ridiculous and outlandish that it's almost like you read this and go, no, this can't be true. They can't be that foolish. Morrissey is that foolish to do something like this. So I'm just sort of like going, gosh, this sounds so off the wall, crazy. Can an attorney really be that foolish to do something like this? And as an attorney, I can tell you, I never meet alone with a witness on a case. As a prosecutor, as a defense counsel, you never meet alone with a witness, especially as a prosecutor, because you can be accused of doing something that the defense says you intimidated the witness, or you tried to manipulate them, or whatever kind of accusation they want to make. And so just as a general rule, you never meet with any witness one-on-one as an attorney. You always want to have a witness there, both for your own protection as well as somebody to be able to testify if the person lies to you, to have that available. So it's just a smart move. So I would say that Morrissey meeting with Jen McCabe and this person that's out on bond for multiple criminal charges, this Peter lady, it's really, I can't get my brain around this one. When Peter returned home, she said she had a manila envelope in her hands. So is that more money they're giving her besides the Cash App? Really strange stuff. Okay, next we have Peter's informed that she's seen emails that are subject to a protective order between Karen Reed, prosecution team, and Jen McCabe. We don't know who that'd be coming from. I can't believe the prosecution team would that be dumb enough to give this to a criminal like this, someone that's facing charges anyway. So what would it be, Jen McCabe? So I wish they would have clarified that. Peter reported to me that upon the request of Hank Brennan, she provided the spreadsheet of all of free Karen Reed Facebook supporters to Commonwealth for this upcoming trial. Really, they had to pay somebody to do some kind of social media screening. I don't know. I think they'd do that from their own office, but maybe they wanted to have extra work out there. It just sounds really ludicrous. All right, next, Peter told me that Hank Brennan is providing information to the federal authorities regarding Karen Reed and Andy Kearney because he wants them in jail for the trial. Yeah, I think that's what I think that's pretty clear that they're trying to do everything they can to get Aiden Kearney out of being a media member there at this trial. Next, we have Peter told me he's going to start rumors about jurors being afraid to serve because Turtle Boy will go after them, and everyone is working overtime to make sure that Turtle Boy can't be in the courtroom for the trial. Well, think about it. They put him on a witness list, and he had no relevance to being a witness on this case. So this sort of looks like the second part of this looks like it could be true, that they really are desperate to get him out of that courtroom as a media rep. And then starting rumors that jurors being afraid to serve because Turtle Boy will go after them. So that could be a reason that the judge keeps him out of there from having media access. So that looks like it's really serious trying to make up stories about the jurors. So does Morrissey know about this, or Brennan? This is really, really strange, serious stuff here. Next, we have Peter admitted to me that she created the image of Karen Reed and Alan Jackson embracing, and that was given to the Daily Mail. Okay, created the image. That's the AI image I mentioned earlier. And then in early January, Peter and I were discussing the Lindsay Gachtani case against Aiden Kearney. I mentioned something about Gachtani being pregnant at the time, and Peter interrupted me and said she was never pregnant. I'm aware that Peter and Gachtani were close friends in the past, worked together against Mr. Kearney. Okay, that's not really relevant here. Next, I understand I'm not represented by any attorneys connected to the Aiden Kearney or Karen Reed defense teams. I'm trying to turn over this information because it's important to know the truth of what's going on. And this person says they're not being compensated or doing this of own free will. Okay, that Courtney Healey is a witness, not the person that's doing the affidavit. So anyway, this stuff is so outlandish that I'm looking at it then in terms of, could any of this stuff really be true? What indicators do I have that any of this stuff could be true if I pull the thread on it? And so the one thing that stands out to me is this stuff about Jen McCabe not being cooperative. Then I don't say what you want to say. So here, Jen is being very aggressive to Morrissey, like she was to the defense on the trial. And so I want to circle back to a motion we had. Sorry, hold on a second. Trying to find 673 here. One second. I'm just having trouble. Here we go. Okay, this is the one. Oh, this other one is shown here. All right. Look at here on paper 638 here at the bottom, motions, defense motion for specific recovery. The Commonwealth and the defendant have reached an agreement to all remaining disputed materials except for materials number 3 and 4. Number 3 seeks any information, including any oral or written statements or communication of any witness suggesting a reluctance or refusal to testify in connection with this case. Refusal to testify in connection with this case. Well, that's Jen McCabe, what they're saying about Jen McCabe. Why would they put this in there, and why would the Commonwealth be resisting this? They don't want this coming out. They're trying to keep it under wraps. And then we have number 4, any information, including any oral or written statements or communication of any witness wherein a witness suggested a reluctance or refusal to cooperate. So those are almost the exact same sentences, but one is refusal to testify, the other one is reluctance or refusal to cooperate. So that's exactly, I think, why we had this specifically called out by the defense and why the prosecution is resisting. And then what do we have from the judge? Well, although it is a close call, arguably, no, it's not a close call. It's covered by a Massachusetts Rule of Criminal Procedure 14B2B3 and should be provided. So even when the law is specifically clear and there's no call to be made, you must provide it. The judge is saying it's a close call. It just shows the bias of this judge. And then she said, therefore, it's to number 3 and 4, the motion is allowed. And then the Commonwealth must provide the information within a week. If the witness is scheduled to testify prior to then, the Commonwealth shall provide the information at least 1 day prior to the witness being called to testify. So this is what leads me to believe that this stuff about somebody being reluctant to testify has to do with something the defense received information on. And so they would have been finding out about this Peter lady when they were asking for this specifically. So they've known about this for weeks, I would say. The defense team has, about this witness coming forward. And so for the prosecution to hide the ball in this, that's really strange. It's part of the cover-up game again. Don't get this information out in front of a jury, because that's how we could lose a case. We already got a loser case. The only way we can salvage this case, a winnable case, is to hide the truth from the jury. So next I wanted to show I was just real quickly looking at laws to see what law might be applicable there involving influencing testimony for court. And so I found this one here. It's under the bribery statute. In this part D here, whoever directly or indirectly corruptly asks, demands, extracts, solicits, seeks, accepts, receives, or agrees to receive anything of value for himself or any other person or entity in return for influence upon the testimony under oath or affirmation of himself or any other person as a witness upon any such trial, hearing, or other proceeding, or in return for the absence of himself, shall be punishable with fine not more than 100,000 or imprisonment in state prison not more than 10 years. And it's got some other punishments as well. So I'm just thinking, here we have Jen McCabe seeking something of value in return for the influence of her testimony. So if she's asking for Aiden Kearney to be arrested in exchange for her testifying, I mean, that's sort of like I would say that fits here pretty good. Again, if this is true, yeah, the laws up here are so antiquated. Yes, this was filed in the Turtle Boy case. So I'm just telling you, this is serious stuff against Jen McCabe. And this is being entertained by the DA's office. If this is true, this is something that, I mean, this could take him out of his job. And it should be dismissing this case. So this thing is going to get uglier and uglier, folks. And I think, like I said before, the defense theory needs to flow through the testimony of Jen McCabe. That 911 tape seals the deal. That's a massive reasonable doubt. Besides all the forensic stuff, as I've said, the RICO witnesses, the judges working hard to try to find some kind of technicality to keep them out, because they know they're absolutely dead ring losers if they get that RICO testimony excluded from the jury. If it comes in, I should say, if the RICO testimony comes in and everything they have to say, they're the most credible witnesses for any of this kind of biomechanical engineer type stuff to talk about, can a vehicle like Karen Reed was driving, that Lexus GX 570, could it do that kind of damage to what we have for John O'Keefe? And as we've seen, the arm marks are not from a vehicle at all, for sure. They're from a dog, a large dog. All right, let me go into exit full screen here. Yep, PJ. Yeah, I'm tracking that now. I said it wrong in the beginning. I apologize. So she's just the person who is a witness to it. So we don't know who signs this affidavit, but it's somebody that supposedly knows this Peter. And I do think that the defense counsel for Kearney would have flushed this out and make sure she's not making something. So this is something that has to be fleshed out. I assume there'll be some kind of defense motions being raised. And so it remains to be seen. Sam, you're saying the Wayfarer sectional receipt has already been shown today on social. Peter brought it in December 2024 on a payment plan and paid it off 2 days later. I don't know how it was obtained. Interesting. Gracious Rebel. Massachusetts had a mafia problem. They got rid of the mob, but they did not clean up the police and the DAs who enabled the mob. Heather says Brennan has nowhere to run now. If you have questions, use red emojis. So I'll answer some of your questions on this issue about this affidavit, and then I can go over some of the recap from Friday. Friday there wasn't that much that went on as far as witnesses. Heather, you're saying I had a vision 2 days ago. The Karen trial stops abruptly. I could see that happening. I mean, depending how this plays out, depending what defense does to raise motions. Because if they're doing this is outrageous government conduct. Remember, the defense filed that motion, and they can renew that and add this to it. AKA the cat lady. Yeah, the judge is going to keep Carney out of the courtroom when the McCabe's are testifying, and also the Alberts, right? So he's not going to be in jail, but he's not going to be there when they're testifying. Yeah, it's a matter of hiding the truth. So why are they worried about having a disinformation campaign? And I think what did they do? They went to Kearney's enemy to try to hire the enemy to try to stir things up. And anyway, it's just, I don't know why a DA's office would want to mess with that. JC, you're asking, do I think the judge is going to allow this affidavit, or will she attempt to block it? Well, the affidavit is filed on Kearney's case, but the information used in here could be used in Karen's case. And because Jen McCabe is on this case, so I think it's tied in there. And they're also, the 1,500 goes towards both cases, so it directly is tied to Karen's as well. I'm just curious to see what kind of motion the defense would be raising. I'd be raising a motion on this. If I thought this was a legitimate witness and they're willing to come forward, I would definitely be using this. And I'd be filing motions to get the charges dismissed. Nanette, you're saying, is this reputable, or is it just up to the judge? Well, the defense has to advocate how this is relevant, how this could be truthful, and showing that the state is acting underhanded, and that they're basically paying somebody to tell lies and stalk Karen Reed and her defense team. I mean, it just sounds so juvenile, really, and yet I've had a saying: never underestimate the stupidity of your opponent, because you can't believe the stuff you can see lawyers and law enforcement do. Unchecked lie: what are the actions that could happen if Lally bribed a foreperson? That was the last trial. The remedy's a new trial. She's already going to. No, the judge made that sound like, well, yeah, the remedy's a new trial. No, the remedy is that the charges are dismissed with prejudice. That's the remedy when the government acts so extremely outrageous and tramples on the constitutional rights of a defendant. That's the remedy, is dismissal with prejudice. So they're not saying that he bribed the foreperson. It's just that they're saying that he did not disclose the relationship he had with this foreperson. Because remember, they're asked, does anybody here have any ties or connections to anybody in the district attorney's office? So if he was buddies with Lally and he didn't raise his hand or not affirmatively that he's trying to keep it on the down low that way, then that's an issue that could feed into this motion. Darlene, you're also asking the consequence of the affidavit. Well, I think that what they need to do is run this to ground truth, start calling witnesses, and bring this as a part of motion where they want to present evidence. And I'm not sure why I haven't done that yet. Hopefully they will do that instead of just calling witnesses, raise a motion to try to get the charges dismissed. And try to pin it on some kind of state law being violated. Yeah, Mark Bederow, he's one of the lawyers on this team, so he's super smart, trustworthy kind of guy. I don't think he's going to go with out vetting this person that gave him the information on this affidavit. It sounds so crazy. You think, could this really be true? But keep in mind, they are desperate. They know they can't win this case without hiding truth from the jury. They're trying to get social media to turn on Karen Reed. Yeah, I mean, they need to ask for discovery of all this stuff about Morrissey, his emails and connections with this person. They need to request subpoenas of this Peters texts and emails, social media conversations, all that kind of stuff. Get a whole list of what stuff she's done to harass the defense and stalking them at the hotel. I mean, you just can't believe that they would do this stuff. But if it's been vetted by the attorneys for Kernoway, which include Mark Bederow, I don't think they'd take some shaky testimony and put it in an affidavit and file it in court unless they thought they could back it up with some evidence, credible evidence. So I think that the thing that really helps with Karen and Jen McCabe is this issue is Jen actually paying folks to harass maybe not Karen, but also to Kearney. Kearney's paying to harass Kearney's not really directly tied to Karen, but to harass Karen, she's getting payment from Jen McCabe. That's a huge issue to impeach her on. I mean, there's enough impeachment there already, but it's a massive, massive bolster of impeachable evidence against Jen McCabe if this happened. Yeah, that's what I said. Kate Peters started a horrible rumor about Karen and attorney Alan Jackson by posting a photo of them embraced. It was a function, very innocent, of course. Yeah, Sandy, better I wouldn't mention if it wasn't verified. To some degree, I mean, he can't verify it 100% at this point, but I would say Karen's lawyers need to bring this up in a motion. But again, the prosecution will say it never happened. They'll try to block any kind of subpoena from finding this stuff out. So they're just going to try to bury it and suppress it, and the judge will probably rubber stamp it. So you're just not going to get fair justice in that courtroom. Wendy did it. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Nene Brown, when people take the stand and take the oath, what are the consequences for lying? Well, a lot of people get away with a lot of lies and nothing happens to them. From what I've seen it in criminal trials, see it in civil trials. People just lie all the time. It's not really unbelievable unless you got a good attorney that can really cross-examine them and expose their lies. But even then, if you expose the lies of folks, most people don't ever get charged, not even in a criminal setting. Stevie, how you're asking, is the chief retiring have any relationship to this? I don't think so, but it could be the chief of police there. She's not directly involved in this. The resigning chief of police there for Canton. Hannah Nuciel says, if this doesn't end the case right here, how fast will this get a conviction, overturn on appeal? Well, it's not going to speed it up any quicker, but I think, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we keep hearing more of this kind of stuff unraveling as a prosecution goes on, and maybe we can get the case killed before it even gets to the defense side. Christine, you're asking, could a RICO charge occur as a result of all the shenanigans in this case? If there is an investigation into government corruption, can they all be charged together? If they got the proof to back it up and this kind of evidence comes out and they can show that evidence is planted and they went after Karen without legitimate basis, and maybe the Canton Police Department, the way they covered up for the Birchmore case, I just don't know what the mindset there is of the U.S. Attorney's Office. We had a change of administrations at the presidential level, so you have new U.S. Attorney there in Massachusetts. So they're relatively new on the job there, so no idea what kind of angle they'd take at it. But hopefully they'd have an aggressive angle at it and go after these people. Yeah, Kel, people stop talking about the feds. They're not going to say if and if not, and it could take years for releasing anything if they ever do decide to. I mean, maybe this is something made up by the DA's office there, and the media ran with it, and they leak it to people like this Peter. Music is my bestie. Is there anyone in the judicial system that can stop this? I have followed since day one of trial one. It seems like Judge Coney has no one that she's held accountable to. It is scary. Yeah, it's scary because that's the way it is usually in American courts. You got to wait till appeal. The judge has a power. She's appointed or elected, he or she, and they do carry a lot of weight. And if they don't care to follow the law, then one of the parties can really suffer until it goes up on appeal and they get justice that way. Fat, Dumb, and Happy, you're saying Aiden has posted receipts, extractions of both phones that confirm that these women went to stalk Karen and lawyers at a hotel. Well, that's interesting. Hey, Mr. Swampy. Hey, it's not juveniles corruption, communicating with jurors, paying for political action in the street, reprocess of justice. Oh my God. Yeah, they're acting very juvenile. If they're going to resort to criminal behavior, I mean, I just can't fathom the desperation that if all this stuff is true, the desperation that they have. Wow. Unbelievable. So, like I say, it sounds like a lot of this might be true, but we just don't know at this point. But I do think that there's something. The most mileage I think you can take away from this is the issue with Jen McCabe because of this resistance of the Commonwealth to tell the defense team at Karen's who's resisting being a witness. They're probably going, dang, how did they find out about this issue? Well, they know now. Super squirrels, Commonwealth's in too deep. Efforts have gotten out of their control. It's going to continue to unravel, I think. One way or the other, the truth is going to come out. It's going to unravel, and these guys could be the ones going down, not Karen in the end. Thanks, Michelle. You're asking what's an affidavit? Yeah, it is a person's sworn testimony. They're sworn to tell the truth, and it's in front of a notary. So that's what this is. Now, a lot of what this person's saying is hearsay based on what they're saying. This Kate Peter told them. So it's most all this stuff is based on hearsay, but it has a lot of detailed information that the attorneys can flush it out if the judge allows them to. Sharon McCarthy, none of this would have seen the light of day if Carney was never falsely arrested and his attorney Mark Bederow found all stuff in discovery. Yeah, I think that's correct. Bonfire 24. This whole case is very hard to believe, but it gets more bizarre by the day. Yes, it does. And I think it's going to continue. It's going to get worse and worse for the Commonwealth. Hannah, you're saying certainly as an ironic layer to the judge's new admonition to the jurors to be especially careful of social media at the end of each day. Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah, Becky Einhorn. The affiant swears what they say is true and accurate statement. It still can be a lie. Yeah, because it's all hearsay. Sandy, the DA meeting with a fact witness during a murder trial is absurd. Yeah, meeting in Braintree and all that. He doesn't even go to court on cases. So just so bizarre. He's acting more like a politician than he is a district attorney. And after all, he was a longtime legislator there in Massachusetts, including a senator. Super Squirrel doesn't affidavit read that Lally made the comment that foreperson will assure a mistrial. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that, I can see an attorney saying, hey, I guarantee that I'm not going to lose this case because of, I know somebody on the jury. That's one thing. It's another stretch to say, hey, the foreman assured me that there will be a mistrial. I don't, it doesn't need to be the latter. It can be the former. And either way, it's corruption. Hey, Mr. Swampy, is Jen allegedly telling the DA she won't testify the way you want us to unless you first lock up TB? So that's the way it sounds, if that's indeed true. Law and lit. You're afraid that Jen McCabe would just get all defiant and deny, and the jury would believe her like last time. Well, I think it's only because of that cop. The cop is what skewed everything. The cop on the jury. So what do you guys think? Do you think this affidavit is mostly truthful? If so, why? Yeah, the Delphi case I hear a lot about being worse of a railroading than Karen. That's hard to believe, but I just don't have time for that right now. Sorry. Sandy says that Peter said on X tonight that she's the most powerful woman in Norfolk County because she thinks Morrissey will protect her. Wow, that's a pretty brazen statement to give on social media. They got to raise this in court. Defense needs to jump all over this and raise this in court. Try to force a judge to have a hearing on what Morrissey's been up to, along with his other sidekicks. Southall bound, could you please ask Attorney Mark Bederow to come on your show? I've not really had many guests. I've only had the trooper, but he'd be a great guy to talk to. I'll consider that, and I guess I could easily find his information out. All right, I'll look into that. Thank you. Okay, PJ, you're saying you believe every bit is true. Their corrupt house of cards are about to fall big time. They need to drop the hammer. Defense needs to drop the hammer on these guys. Sherry Ann, we all felt something's off the way that the judge picked that foreman. Yeah, I just can't believe they allow a judge to pick a four-person. Really can mess up the outcome. Average Deb, you're saying jurors cannot watch or read anything regarding the Karen Reed case. What happens if they see the story? Would that be against the rules? It's against the rules, but you know what? I think it happens all the time. All right. These jurors, they're not going to sit there and not look at social media, not look at stuff on Google about this case at all. So yeah, sorry. Sorry, I can't have my wife on based on the nature of her work. So otherwise I would. Otherwise I would. She has a lot of great insights. I'll just leave it at that. Cynthia Rose and RN is saying Bederow isn't attaching his name to anything he doesn't have solid proof of. He's really a straight shooter, trustworthy kind of guy from what I've seen of him. I saw he's on Fox News like yesterday, I think it was. The main Fox News station. They're in studio in New York, I believe it was. Bex Mack, if this was any other trial, would you find these accusations unbelievable? Yes and no. I mean, I would say that you just cannot, but like I say, you cannot believe how crazy, wild, and stupid people can get, even people in high positions of authority. So on one hand, yeah, nobody's going to be this stupid. On the other hand, it's like from my experience, like, yeah, people actually do really stupid stuff like this. Elizabeth, I don't know if the Canton Chamber of Commerce is going to survive with these people up there. RN, you're saying the big issue is that KP has apparently lied about all kinds of stuff, so I could see the affidavit being truthful, that they heard this, but might not be much substance. Yeah, I mean, that could be the case as well. Maybe she's just talking a big game and talking about how much hate she has for Aiden, and I guess she supposedly doesn't. She thinks Karen's innocent, but she's willing to do this kind of work for money. Wait, what? Says it seems like it would be safe for the Commonwealth just to dismiss the case. What are the other judges thinking about Canoni's rulings? I can't speak for other judges, but I know we have any law enforcement folks I hear from, or I know we have someone here, Andy, her husband is a judge in Tennessee for 40 some years, and he thinks this whole thing is just as ate up as we do. Cannot believe the judge as one side this judge is. I mean, think about it. If you're going to hire somebody to go after Kearney, you need somebody what better person to seek out than his sworn enemy, his number one enemy. So, and they also have criminal charges over him. So who better to go after to sort of like do your dirty work than her? The problem is you never can keep that kind of tight circle guaranteed, and loose lips sink ships. So that's if this indeed really is accurate information. Kate, you're saying I do believe they all have fake confidence due to abuse of power. Yeah, there's no checks and balances on abuse of power up there. All right, let's see. Christine is saying, I believe it's 100% truthful. The history between Kate and Aiden confirms it. The behavior is lots of folks in this case is questionable. Aiden's information has always been factual and reliable. We don't know who's making these accusations, but it's somebody that swore an oath in front of a notary, and it was apparently typed up by a couple of attorneys that represent Aiden Kearney. Wait, what? I thought hearsay is not allowed. Yeah, the affidavit is all hearsay based, but just because it's hearsay based, it's sort of like admission by a party opponent, and the affidavit not be presented in front of a jury. But it's a good way to start digging out and filing motions to see if any of this stuff is provable in court. Unchecked lie, you're saying the person who wrote the affidavit was likely telling the truth about what they were told. KP does not seem like a very truthful person, though. All right, Sam, you're saying Bederow's on Fox today talking about, okay, maybe I saw it early this morning then. Thank you, Sam. I haven't talked about The Rock yet. I'll get to the yesterday's events here once we wrap up this issue with this affidavit. Yeah, I did see The Rock at 34 Fairview. Wait, what? If it's true that Canoni's making so many bad decisions, what's the solution? Well, right now for this case, the only solution they have is to keep objecting aggressively, building a record, show Supreme Court case law for things you're trying to do that she's going to roadblock you on and try to crush you on. And then the rest is up to the higher courts. But I really believe that it won't get to the higher courts because there'll be an acquittal across the board. Or this thing may crash and burn before it gets to the jury. All right, let's see. Moving ahead. Bex Mac, you're saying the sectional sofa is the part that makes it seem most believable to me. Wildlight Arts. Most people won't give this issue of women with disabilities being treated horribly by law enforcement that does not enforce laws or protect disabled individuals from abuse. Yeah, I mean, when you think what Karen has to go through suffering with her MS and then dealing with this kind of clown show by the prosecution and judge. Harry's mom, it's only been 1 week. The cards are starting to fall. Commonwealth is desperate. Someone's going to slip up. Yeah, they're trying to batten down the hatches, trying to keep this sinking ship moving. But the rats are starting to jump off the ship. And I think that the pressure that these prosecution witnesses are going to face after seeing so many of these witnesses crashing and burning so far in court that the prosecution's propped up. Ordinary, do I think the judge having grave concerns now? You're saying you do. If she has concerns, it's concerns about, hey, how do I fix this stuff? So the prosecution looks good. Eliza Krogan, yes, maybe the beginning and the end. Hopefully so, but wouldn't that be nice if there's a constant drip, drip, drip every week of more scandals coming out about the DA's office? Yeah, I mean, Heather, you're saying, how are the prosecution? When is this going to keep lying on stand after this bombshell? Well, we don't know for sure it's a bombshell yet, but it's pretty serious misconduct. And so let's see what the defense does to flush this out. Maybe let's want to sit back and ambush these witnesses like Jen McCabe. So yes, if the Commonwealth doesn't call Jen McCabe, the defense can still do so. Okay, so next I'm going to go back to, sorry, I should have had exited full screen there. Now I'm going to go through and cover, oops, sorry. Why are banners popping up? Okay. Tina, you're saying they're going to try to distance Morrissey from Brennan. Just watch. At some point, I think that will be the case, especially after he loses a case, one or the other, through dismissal or acquittal. Yes, I think the judge is trying to exclude Arca any which way she can. All right, so just to a recap, focusing then on day 4 of the trial, retrial for Karen Reed. It started out with the jury being bussed over to 34 Fairview. There they had Karen Reed's Lexus SUV there parked in front of the house there. And I just thought that was strange that they'd put the vehicle there. And how do they negotiate where to put the vehicle? I'm not sure, but it was not, it looked like it wasn't directly in front of the front door, but sort of between the front door and where the flagpole was. But I thought the fact that the whole back tail light was taken out, I thought that was really odd. And I thought that was prejudicial by the jury maybe thinking the whole thing got busted out. And so we haven't heard all the details yet of the different pieces and all that. So I thought that was prejudicial, and they should have had that tail light completely fixed if they're going to present that vehicle there at the scene. But I do think that the distances there in that yard are so small that I think it really helps with the jury before they have folks like Brian Albert testify why he couldn't come out of the house. So overall, I think it's going to be good. Yeah, that rock there that had the Albert's name on it, a pretty good sized rock. It's about a rock like that big. It's like, it's something that it's like you would think this area would be policed up. They had enough law enforcement there, so why would that be there? I don't know. It's just, who knows? But I don't think it's going to do anything to hurt the defense. If anything, maybe it'll remind people, hey, this is where the Alberts lived, and they all fled the coop. So that rock there, I don't think is going to be anything other than you're saying here, Sandy. You think the big rock there to make the jury think John hit his head on the rock? Yeah, I did not see exactly where the rock was, though. Can somebody tell me where the rock was found in relation to the front yard and where Karen's vehicle was? Jamie Polizzi, you're saying, given that Jen McCabe was such a disaster for the prosecution last time, do we know if she will actually be called this time? Well, I know she's going to be on the list. Whether she's called or not is a different matter. And with this kind of thing now, maybe they'll decide not to, but maybe they're just going to try to have the judge keep it out so then they can call her, and this kind of incriminating information doesn't come to light. Even if it's an accusation, it doesn't come to light. Caroline Brissy, you agree the foreman is suspect. That letter he wrote is highly suspicious, not letting the juror to question the verdict form. Yeah, he had so much control over this jury that is really, really bizarre. And I think if it wasn't for him, that there would have been acquittal across the board. I strongly believe that. There's no doubt in my mind. He just totally bamboozled the other jurors. And Andy School, yeah, they should have another sign on the lawn. Whoops, where did that go? Constitution free zone. The rock could cause a juror speculation that the rock could have been there. Jurors want to deduce, not told as much. They want to speculate. Yes, they did sell the house, so their name would not be there. I've also heard that, Sandy, that Morrissey was on the witness list. Maybe that's because they want to question him on this affidavit. KPs. What happened if the Commonwealth just ignores this second time sent? I don't know if you're saying that. Question was sent the second time, but well, they are going to try to ignore this. That's why the defense needs to raise this issue through a motion and also through witnesses. Try to flush it out. Try to make this provable in court. Maggie Reyes, you're saying, does anyone know where to find the Fairview neighbor that gave the statement on the news? Yeah, I saw that one as well. Some elderly gentleman that said he thought this whole case was a joke, that Karen Reed was innocent, and he was very much convinced of that. He lives like a couple of houses down or across the way, so I heard he's on the defense witness list. I did not get his name, though. Andy School, you're saying Jen McCabe would have not used Cash App. Should know not to do that. Her phone having been obtained before, she'll do cash only, so I believe that's what the manila envelope was with cash inside. LJ, you always thought that the 4-person selection was fishy, as well as the juror who was dismissed. Yeah, all that stuff is very, very suspicious. Harry's mom, assuming it's the same neighbor, an elderly gentleman, you're asking if I saw the interview with him. He's convinced Karen's innocent. I did see a neighbor talking about that, and he had nothing good to say about the Alberts. I didn't. I think that's the one he talked about, the Alberts, that there's no way they wouldn't have heard that, all that commotion out in front. I think that's the extent of it. Liza, yes, we need independent thinkers on this jury, like 12 Angry Men. Absolutely. The neighbor's interview I saw, I think it was on X. I'm also going to have an X channel with some shorts on there that John's put together. So it's going to be a different name channel, but I'm not going to, I should say, John's going to have that put out on X for me once I get that set up. Okay, so anyway, the apparently what Hank was also talking about, Hank Brennan, the prosecutor, he's making the jury look at the back. It's like a spoiler on Jen's car. He's apparently indicating that that's what he's going to be arguing, that that's how John O'Keefe hit his head and got that gash on his head, that big spoiler thing that goes across the top of the back window. So it's like another theory of how he could have been killed by Karen's car. They're just trying to throw everything against the wall, see what sticks. Yeah, Stella Belly, the neighbor across the street was also law enforcement for Canton Police. He said he didn't have any Ring camera showing up, but they never, to my understanding, seized the device and verified it. That's how good of an investigation we had on this case. All right, so next we had Dr. Gary Faller. He's a physician and pathologist. He works in Brockton now, but previously worked at the Good Samaritan. And he was talking about how they did the blood draw and testing on Karen's blood and the readout. And ultimately, with cross-examination by Attorney Little for Karen Reed, she brought out some things about they don't really test the entire blood, but just the serum of blood they extract from the blood draw. And so you can have not the most accurate levels, but this lab is not even accredited. It's not a legal sanctioned lab. It's just merely for medical purposes. So they brought out some of that. And, they asked things like, and this was Lally doing the direct. So Elizabeth Little asked, do you know that Ms. Reed was severely anemic in 2022? So here he is objecting to that. So that anemia can also affect, I guess, your readings for blood alcohol. She did come back negative for any illegal drugs. Anyway, that was pretty much, I think, a waste of time. And I think it was more prejudicial than probative evidence on this case because Karen was already drinking when she got back to the house some more. So if she already was drinking more, how can you say what her alcohol level was at the scene? It's just another thing that is abusive process towards Karen Reed. If you're drinking after an incident happens, whatever blood draw you get after that is completely unreliable and should not be admissible. All right, next we had Jason Becker. He was an EMT and paramedic. He went with Whitley to Fairview, and he lives in Canton. He had direct exam by Brennan. He did mention that Karen was shaken up about her husband. She was referring to John O'Keefe as her husband. And initially, Karen said she didn't need to go to the hospital, but was overall cooperative. And then Brennan asked her, did she make any statements while you were giving her treatment about her husband? Defense made an objection. It was overruled. And she said the last thing she remembers was there was an argument, and Becker didn't know what kind of argument it was about. And then on cross by Jackson, he says that the witness said that when they arrived in ambulance number 2, there was 2 cops with their cruiser still there and a fire engine as well. So this is at 34 Fairview. Spoke with Karen in an SUV for about 5 to 7 minutes before they went to the ambulance. Another woman who we later learned was Carrie Roberts was in the SUV as well. Nobody else. Karen told them the blood on her face was from doing CPR on her husband. It did appear to Karen that she'd been through significant trauma. So that's a good thing to note. Karen told Becker she's not going to act on her suicidal ideation. She did refer to John as her husband. HIPAA rules would mean that she cannot have the info unless they're families. So the implication he was making there was, well, by saying John is her husband, she would get more information that way. And then there was some question by Jackson saying you previously testified for a grand jury and indicated that Karen was upset because her last words to him were in anger, correct? Then he said he probably phrased it wrong. And then Jackson said you also said before grand jury that the argument was earlier in the night, correct? And he said, I can't recall. Then he concedes after refreshing his memory that he did say it was earlier in the night, but he didn't ask what those words were, didn't know whether they were via text, voicemail, etc. And then Brennan did some redirect, and basically it was, again, talking about whether the argument was by voice or text message. He was unsure. And then Brennan asked, when Karen said that she felt bad about her last words with her husband being an argument, why didn't you ask for more details about that? And then he said, I didn't think I'd be a witness for a murder trial. And Brennan said, you indicated Karen seemed so traumatized. You know what caused the trauma? And he said, no. So anyway, that was pretty much the gist of it for the witnesses. So really not a big significant takeaway from there. And I think that blood draw is a throwaway, not credible and reliable at all, especially even if it was lab certified, legal certified type blood analysis. What we don't have is a reliable blood test based on the fact that she was still drinking some back at the house when she got back to the house and was waiting for John to show up. So with that, I'll answer any questions. All right, so PJ, you're saying this could be the start of a desperate need for change in Canton and the corruption. Yeah, what's it going to take for that place to get cleaned up? Stella Bella is saying he was not looking to hurt Karen. He was genuine. Hank was trying to shift it, trying to put a spin on it. Bonfire 24, you can't help but wonder if these witnesses who are employed by Canton or by the county have they had insinuated to them that their job depends on how they testify. Not sure about that. I know a lot of them got a big pay bump in the last 2 years. Andy School, the left side of frontal lobe in brain is not from back and forth. Dr. Stonebridge also didn't attest to this as coup contra coup. Back hat strap dug into his scalp. It was removed to assess. Did they actually talk about the hat? Was his hat actually there? I don't remember anything being mentioned about his hat. Once he was found there on the lawn. Mandy, you're asking what do I think about how Elizabeth handled the situation with the doctor who insisted on adding to his testimony and Bev not letting her control him. Yeah, she's saying that Elizabeth opened the door, which I think she kind of did. So, but I think this witness is not relevant to anything. So I think overall for day 4, I think them getting to go out there to the house before you have the Alberts and McCabe's testifying is a good thing. Sam, you're asking can and will Jen take a deal to tell out? Well, there's so much media interest in her case that I can see that happening once it's all said and done. Yeah, so if he's wearing his hat, why would he take it off when he's going over 34 Fairview? And so what happened to it? Where's his hat at? Can anybody tell me that? Bonfire 24. What do I think will happen in court on Monday? I think it's going to be an ambush set up by the judge and the prosecutor and they're going to try to just come up with some kind of trumped up reason to intimidate and block ARCA from testifying. That's what they're going to try to do. Whether it actually happens or not, I don't know, but that's what I'm really leery of. Heather, I think the prosecuting witnesses should be fearful to testify now. I think they are losing confidence in the prosecution. I mean, how can you trust this prosecution at all? Even if you're on their side as a witness, but if stuff starts coming unraveling, average Jeb, you're saying they found his hat at the scene. Okay, I've not seen that. Of course, we don't really have much for pictures. If there was proper investigation, we would see that. Rainy day girl. Where was that said that Karen Reed drank after 12:36 at home? I remember seeing that months ago. I don't know. I don't remember where, but that's what I remember seeing coming out somewhere. I cannot remember the source. If anybody can verify that. Basically, you're saying the hat appears after his death in front yard, no blood on it. Okay, I've not seen that before. Okay, Andy School, you're saying not all said hands were very cold. Then why the heck didn't anyone try hand IV if pulseless? Hat was found days later. Carl allegedly also beat bitty little blood, which means it was removed. Carl, can you show the video with the neighbor, please? Okay. Let me see. Unless Leslie sends it to me, I probably won't be able to. I saw that on X. Stand by. I think it'd be too hard to find, but if somebody can send that to me. Send it to jurytrialmentor@gmail.com. JC, could the defense ever show videos of Colin fighting since they're on his social media? I mean, he's pretty vicious and vulgar in them. With this judge saying they can't bring up third-party culprit on Colin, I do not know what that means, the extent of it. Does that mean they're not going to present him at all, and that's kept out? Anything about Colin is kept out? I just don't know. I mean, this is so much a railroad setup here. Dusty Blue, you're saying, I look forward to defense's medical witnesses, especially no hypothermia in the pancreas. Proves John O'Keefe not outside as long as Commonwealth claims. To lucky the snowplow guy not seeing a body on the lawn. Yeah, he would have seen the body on the lawn. So, and then you got the car movement there. That car movement, the Ford Edge there in the middle of the night, that is a huge indicator as well. Beck, you're saying, have I seen the dash cam footage of John O'Keefe being transferred in the ambulance as they approach Jenna McCabe? She hastily turns away to not look at him, was chilling. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. But even more than that is listening to the 911 call. KFG, it's so obvious the prosecution witnesses have been told what to say. It actually appeared not all may have had an earpiece. Yes, I've heard that as well, but I don't think so. Lost says that, have I seen the microdots video about the link between Bev and Morrissey? His wife employed her mom. I think I have seen that a while back. That's not a new video, so I think hold on a second. One second. Trying to get to my emails. Right. Jury trial mentor, mentor @gmail.com. You can send that, please. Harry's mom. My crime time. Why doesn't the defense request put all footage from all video interviews and audio recordings under the rule of completeness? Yeah, I mean, part of it is, I think, if it's not really relevant to what the prosecution is trying to bring out, and it's all little choppy segments, and they're talking about different topics, then the rule of completeness isn't necessarily there to take the context of what Karen is talking about. But so I think they could do it for some portions of it, but these are very short snippets. So the defense apparently has not asked for more footage before they show those little snippets. So maybe they just don't want the jury to focus so much on the video, including if it's more complete. Little Miss Red Velvet, good morning. Do I think the jury viewing was too early, maybe in the middle or near the end? I think it's okay to get them out there early, because that's going to be in their mind when they're seeing Brian Albert testifying and how he didn't get awakened that morning when all that commotion was going on outside his house. So I'm fine with it. Stand by here. All right. Yeah, I don't have Facebook on this computer. Somebody sent me a Facebook link to the neighbor at 34 Fairview. So if it's on Facebook, I will not be able to get access to that. Sorry. RN, I assume you're RN, and I totally agree with you. No one at the scene or in the call had any sense of urgency. It was so weird, just standing around, walking to and from. No pep in the step, nothing. Just another dead guy on the lawn. And they didn't rush him on the stretcher either, like you think they would have. There's no sirens on that we could hear. They had some lights on, but yeah, it just seemed like somebody would have had something minor. Like, you think there'd be more urgency if somebody just was laying there with a broken leg. Shannon Martins, can anyone be prosecuted if the statements in the affidavit are found to be true? Well, I think they could be, but in Massachusetts, doubtful unless the U.S. Attorney's Office gets involved. They all protect each other up in that state. They're all from one party, so they all protect each other. Little, yes, there's so many issues for appeal. This isn't going to be surviving any kind of appeal whatsoever. There's so many constitutional rights violated in this case by the judge and prosecutor. Denicia Rose, if Jen didn't know all hope was lost, she would have sprinted to the house to get Brian while on 911 call. That's what I brought up in one of my recent live streams. I titled it how the 911 call is reasonable doubt right there that ends the case. JC, can the defense bring up that Brian Albert punched out two of his fellow officers in the past? Well, yeah, in a normal court in America, you could, but who knows in this court with this judge? That makes the prosecution witness look bad, right? So if it makes the prosecution witness look bad, then judge is going to try to keep this out, right? That's the way it normally has been working anyway. Okay, S. Parker is, so if you don't believe all this is true, then there's a rumor then it is a rumor you're spreading, which only feed the Karen sports. I'm talking about if something is filed in court, and I'm saying I don't know the truth of it. When I'm assessing it as being that it's something that the defense attorney would have flushed out. He's a credible attorney that he would not file something frivolous, but I don't know for sure. We don't know how this is going to shake out. But I'm just saying the thing that looks very suspicious to me that it could be an indicator of truth is this whole issue about Jen McCabe not wanting to cooperate and how the defense apparently was alerted to this issue and that therefore they asked for discovery from the prosecution on who's not willing to cooperate, and the prosecution is resisting that disclosure. This is like a Brady type disclosure requirement. Brady v. Maryland. It's a Supreme Court landmark case which talks about how there's something that tends to exonerate the defendant, that the prosecution has the affirmative duty to turn that over to the defense. So if you got a witness that doesn't want to cooperate, and this is Jen McCabe, then they need to turn that over. They shouldn't be hiding the ball on that. But like I say, time and time again, the only way they can win this case is to hide from the jury the truth. So just talk about it from a legal standpoint. So I think the defense will be fleshing this out, and we'll find out how much of it is true later on. Kokomo, you're saying the defense will call both this time they're on the witness list. The defense will flush this out to the extent they can, and the judge doesn't prevent the truth from coming out. Kimmy, you're saying Dr. Wolf from ARCA is under federal investigation. He said, screw the defense, no way he wants his certification removed. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about there. Mike Crime Time says the judge is not going to even hold a hearing on all the shady things with Hank and Lally. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. Just like the metadata from the police department, she let that get destroyed. Unbelievable. Little, you're asking we already talked about the rock tonight, and you're saying there's a spot of red on it to indicate blood on the lawn when the jury went to visit. I've not heard that about us. It had some red spots on it. Dusty Blue, you're saying what's interesting is that defense didn't look at any ring door neighbor footage during the time frame when the cops found taillight on the lawn. Maybe Proctor dropped on lawn before they got there. Yeah, but the one across the street was a cop, a Canton cop, so he's not going to allow them any of that kind of access. So that wasn't possible. Becky Einhorn, the best question for Jen is why didn't you go inside your neighbor's front door and turn on the lights at the very least? I think the bigger question is that whole 911 call, whispering, not saying it was John O'Keefe, a police officer down, and he's dying. Hurry, send an ambulance. He may be dead already. You say stuff like that, it would have been a whole different game changer. Maybe he could have survived. A lot of questions for Jen McCabe going to come out this time. Hopefully they'll bring it up Monday, this issue Monday with this affidavit. All right, let's see for Andy, you're saying can Hank be called off for lying in opening statements because he said the call was for pulseless man. Jan never took pulse nor said pulseness. Why didn't they drive with sirens? Can defense bring this up? Yeah, if a prosecutor makes a statement in opening that's not correct, then they can rebut that in the defense closing. I don't know, something like this that the jurors are actually going to recall though. But it's something definitely you could argue if you wanted to. And they could also ask the witnesses, why didn't they have sirens on? So that's something I'd jam back at the prosecutor if I was arguing on defense. Like he's making a big deal about the alarm bell sounded and he knew what this meant. His heart skipped a beat and raced to his equipment. He picked up his bag, which is meticulous. I'd jam that back and say, you know what? Jen McCabe never did any of this. Where was Jen McCabe racing or heart racing to hurry up and get the ambulance and the EMT folks there? She didn't do any of that. Why didn't she? And then just walk it through that way. So there you go. Another spin by Hank Brennan trying to make it look like, hey, they were all excited. Like, in other words, this firefighter was so revved up, ready to go to help save Officer O'Keefe because Janet set it up that way. A pulseless man. She did the proper reporting. No, she didn't. She downplayed, deflected the problem, the seriousness of the problem, medical problem that John had. He was either dead or dying, and she did nothing to make this an urgent plea for help. Nothing at all, other than making the call and slow rolling it. Snake hips. Hey, they have another half day Monday, right? Well, we don't know how long it's going to take with the ARCA folks, and they're just not really on the ball and getting witnesses coordinated properly by the prosecution anyway, as we saw earlier this week. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, this is sort of more of a part-time court with zero-time justice for the defense. Okay, so let me see. Okay, thanks, Lynn, for sending me. Okay, stand by. 37 jurors. Thank you for the video of the neighbor. All right, thank you. I think this might work. Too many screens to move around here. Okay, let's watch this. Here's the neighbor.
I was just going for my daily walk, and I saw all this action, so I said, I think I'll stay here if they don't mind. Said, okay, you can stay here if you want.
Decades-long neighbor of 34 Fairview, Jim Malver, says the trial has become the talk of the neighborhood.
It's bad news.
The 9 men and 9 women then viewed Karen Reed's car. Prosecutor Hank Brennan noting
Oh, it is
that
right by
rear
the
white
flagpole. Okay.
taillight would look different as it was removed as part of the investigation.
A note on the Lexus about the height of the bumper. I'd ask you to make note of the height from the right rear taillight.
And we'll be asking you to take a good look at that Lexus. Just stand next to it. Just size it up.
The jurors were not able to take notes, pictures, or conduct their own investigations while on the view. The judge said, quote, "Your job is to simply stop and look. This is the only time they're going to be visiting the scene during the trial." In Dedham, I'm Penny Commit, WBZ News.
And we will be streaming the Karen Reed trial every day the court is in session on CBS News Boston and Pluto TV.
All right, so
for information
this,
on our live
Talk of the neighborhood.
look right there. That looks very close. That front door to where Karen's vehicle is, and where that vehicle is right now, if she was really going 24 miles an hour and it's snowy conditions there, first of all, apparently the Lexus vehicle like this cannot go in reverse that fast, even on dry pavement conditions with vehicle traction control, especially if it's got vehicle traction control. It'll prevent it from going out of control and going that fast. So that's something I hope the defense does get confirmation on. And let's say, though, even for argument's sake, if it was able to go 24 miles an hour in reverse, if it's going that fast here, I mean, this vehicle is not going to slow down in time to avoid going further back, because right 2 vehicle lengths behind this roughly is the Jeep of Higgins, Brian Higgins, who had a snowplow on it. So there's no way she would have recovered in time to avoid crashing into another vehicle. So it just makes no sense. And why they left the vehicle right here where it looks like it was right about the place that he would have been hit. Well, if he would have been hit, it would have been, and he's laying by the flagpole. Where's this 30 feet thing? Why did they come up with this vehicle placement here if it was 30 feet?
Neighborhood.
It's bad news.
The 9 men and 9 women then viewed Karen Reed's car. Prosecutor Hank Brennan noting that the rear right taillight would look different.
Look at right there, showing that whole clip with the thing bashed out. I think that sort of like is more prejudicial than probative because it makes the juror think, well, gosh, he got hit so hard, the whole thing got blasted out of there. So I don't like seeing that at all.
As it was removed as part of the investigation.
Why couldn't they put a new one on there? If they're not going to put the retrofit the old one pieced back together.
A note on the Lexus.
That's not the same one I had seen before. He had talked about how this is the same neighbor, but this is not the video clip I'd seen before on X, because this one talked about how he said that he believed Karen was innocent and words to that effect. But thank you for sending that. Juliana Viana, what would I do if I was Karen's lawyer and have the affidavit like this one come out? What I would do is try to get as much verified information I can before I file a motion, and then I'd be filing a motion and having a hearing, and I'd be wanting to have subpoenaed and brought to court everybody that had something to do with this, including Lally, including the first jury trial foreman, as well as Lally. I mean, anybody you need to run this to ground with, including Peter, and ask to have a hearing and have a motion dismissed for outrageous government conduct, and add this to the previous motion you already had. Just modify the first one, add all this stuff as well. So, all right, let me see here. Exit presentation mode. Claudia, I don't understand what Jen means by saying she will not testify what Morrissey wants. If she was involved, which I believe she was, she has to stick to the story, which she has to tell on herself. I mean, this is just coming through couple levels of hearsay, so we don't know if this is true or not. But what I can say is that, you know, maybe she's just gonna say anything to scare him into giving her what she wants. So it doesn't have to make any sense for her to make a threat like that, if that threat was even made. A. Johnson, you're saying if this affidavit is true, do you think the judge's bias will go away once she knows which way the wind is blowing? No, I don't think anything is going to get this judge back off. Rosemary Gallagher, yes, the town is not divided. Most stand with Karen and know who the guilty ones are. That's what I'm hearing. Lori Wallace, why did I think that John O'Keefe entered the house in a different door? Wasn't it the door in the breezeway just off the garage in the middle of the front of the house? Well, that's just it. Karen didn't look to see which door he actually went into, so, and the folks in the house said he never came into the house, but we know he went up and down multiple flights of stairs. We also know he went at least 30 feet away from Karen's vehicle and lost connection with her Bluetooth there. We also know his phone was moving around. He took 80 some steps shortly after Karen got there, within a minute after Karen arrived there with him. So there's a lot of these indicators that he got out of the car digitally, I'm speaking, and that Karen was waiting for him and then left beforehand, and his phone was still moving around after she had left for several minutes. Skyview, can this all be grounds for dismissal? We got to the chat, so forgive me. That's what I'd be doing, raising this up as a motion to dismiss, putting the heat on the prosecution, and just fight like a tiger on this in front of the judge. Thanks, Harry's mom. Yeah, the one I'd seen was on X. I'm pretty sure it was on X. So, but thanks for trying to get that. But yeah, it is really good. A much better video that I saw from that sweet neighbor guy. Mandy, I'll call her what Judge Canoni seems to get more annoyed when the defense uncovers Commonwealth shenanigans. Yeah, she's always mad at them and never mad at all these screw ups of the prosecution, and so blatant. Denicia, that's an interesting comment. When I was in high school, a friend stuck her hand out of a car window going 15 miles an hour, smacked another friend on the back, broke 4 fingers in multiple places. John gets hit by an SUV, not one broken bone. Yeah, where are the broken bones on his body? There was some damage to the skull, but where's the rest of the body damage? Susie Lee, if he was found by the flagpole, doesn't mean she should have been in the front of the neighbors in order to go 30 feet back to back into him. Well, their theory, that's one of their theories, but it's now 70 some feet. They went from 62, I think it was, to now 70. So they keep changing their story. And I think part of the thing is Jen McCabe set them up for all these timelines. And that's what was in their opening. And they never stopped to realize that in the closing argument, when they're preparing for the closing, they realize, wait a minute, Jen's story doesn't line up with the digital timing. So in any event, yeah, it's this whole thing about how many feet she backed up and all that. I don't think there's any credible evidence that she did back up. Travis Minor, bottom line is collision did not cause any injuries to the arm. Any explanation for those injuries that are plausible in prosecution theory? Well, that's what I recall that now. That's what that neighbor had said that I saw on X. He was saying that those injuries on his arm aren't from a dog. Aren't from a vehicle. They're from a dog. Those are dog bites. And then the reporter asked him, well, do you know any dogs around here running around that could be biting somebody? He goes, and he mentions only Chloe. Chloe bit a couple people. So it was a classic. Actually, you know what I think? I think I might have. Did I forward that to my X channel, which is Jury Trial Mentor? Hold on a second. If I did, I'll do that after tonight's live stream. Kathy M, have I ever seen a case as messy and dirty as this one? I've not seen anything this shady and corrupt, and I've seen a lot of shady stuff and corrupt stuff in my lifetime. And I can tell you that what's really the most shocking about this is on live display for everyone to see how corrupt they are. So that's what's really the shocker of this. And then the judge not given a fair trial. That's what really makes us over the top crazy. Yeah, so look on Jury Trial Mentor on X if you guys have X, formerly Twitter. Stella Belly, the sneaker had 5 unidentified male DNA. Who touched the sneaker? Yeah. If there's 5 unidentified, why are they unidentified? Did they try to match it up with anybody in the house? All right, let's see here. Amy Hronik, can't someone higher up do something about the spies, Judge? Don't see that happening. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull an X link to the neighbor interview. Thank you, Leslie. Let me see if I can play this here. Stand by. This might be it. Stand by. Can't do it full screen. Okay, here we go. This might be it.
And he starts telling me that he's lived there for 40 years and he remembered that night of the snowstorm. And I started asking him questions about the neighborhood and his thoughts on the case. Take a listen.
It's bad news. She's definitely innocent. There's no question about it. When you look at his arm, a car couldn't do that to an arm. No way. All you got to do is look at his right arm. There's no way a vehicle would do that to an arm. Explain to me how it could happen. There's just no way. Even the plow driver said he came by at 2:30 and saw nothing. People leaving the party saw nothing. 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, they saw nothing. How can you not see a body lying near the flagpole?
Is there any animals in the area? Any big animals? Have you ever had any problems with pets being lost?
Friends of ours were bitten by Chloe. And in fact, they're on the witness list. I don't know if they're going to be called, but they are on the witness list. We know about them. And I mean, the guy sells his house. He puts in a whole new basement floor. Suddenly his cell phone is gone. Suddenly Higgins' cell phone is gone. Come on. That's all innocent? No way.
Wow. So that's great to see. Thanks for sending that, Leslie. And let's see. So there you go. That's what a common sense neighbor tells you. Doesn't believe any of that stuff the prosecution's trying to throw against the wall. That's why the the community is so disgusted by this DA's office. So they really think they're going to get a conviction with neighbors like that. Wow. So no matter, the only way they can have a chance of winning, like I say, is to hide the truth from the jury. That's it. Some are every day saying, how many times can the state keep deceiving the court before Canoni dismisses the case? Do you think this will pressure her to? I don't see any really pressure she is sensing to do the right thing. I just don't see it. You could have something on tape, let's say, of something really shady going on. I don't think it matters. Even if you have tape and can prove it that way. You don't get a fair trial in that courtroom. Sharon, you're asking what Morrissey's paying Brandon. I think he's already got like 253,000 or something like that. He's going to milk this for everything he can get. Yes, Stella Bella. Chloe was rehomed. Who gets rid of their beloved pet? Well, if she bit a couple neighbors, and then if she'd also, and I don't know if that's before or after, but as a cop, most people would have had to have their dog put down if a dog bites someone. But if you're a cop, you probably don't have to do that. I agree with Maya Rodriguez Sorensen, Esquire. I felt so much more sane after listening to him. Yeah, he sounds very, very level-headed, credible, sensible. That's the kind of people you want on the jury. Yeah, he's lived on that street for 40 years. Wow. Cooter Klopper, will Donna successfully delay trial? If there's 80,000 emails or 100,000, something like that, or digital pages, they could get a delay if they ask for it. I imagine the judge would grant that. But if they don't want a delay because she's not able to survive in there, and she's having a hard time, then they may not ask for a delay. I don't recall. Have they asked for a delay or not? I think it'd be at least a couple months delay. Snake hips, he would have his arm in the radiator, got those marks on his arms. That SUV didn't hit John. Hi to the hill country there. Leslie, okay. Not my Leslie, but you say you have a Lexus SUV and my reverse doesn't go 24 miles an hour and the Lexus beeping reverse system goes crazy. Okay, that's interesting. I hope they flush that out for trial. I do believe the judge is going to protect the Commonwealth no matter what. Says Lost. Daniel Hall says the judge will bend over backwards, find a way to keep ARCA out. That's what I believe. And I just, if that happens, I I will still be stunned that it can be that much of a rigged system. Yeah, that neighbor's video, I'll still post it after this if I can do so on X, on my channel, Jury Trial Mentor. Mm. Yeah, sorry, Andy, no merch. Yeah, this whole prosecution theory is just so outright laughably insane, stupid, crazy, whatever you want to call it. Hey, Johnson, do you think it's possible that county clerks curate jury pools since they control who the summons go to? I wouldn't put it past. I don't put anything past any elected official there. I don't care where they work. I don't trust anybody in that system. Rainy Day Girl says 62 became 70 and reversed at 24 miles an hour. Maybe because the Commonwealth's newest expert, they're probably kicking Trooper Paul to the curb. Maybe he's going to say, well, you'd have to go that fast based on this and this data. And so that's why they're coming up with this new figure of 70 feet in reverse. Eliza, I just wish the jury knew as much as we all know. Hopefully they have some common sense and some critical thinking skills. I don't know which one liner you're talking about. Zingers, yeah, that's what I often say. Peach 12, you're saying I would think Paul and Peg would want to know the truth with the shoddy investigation. Wouldn't they want to find out what the truth is? Yeah, but I think Peggy O'Keefe never liked Karen to begin with, and that's what the prosecution said happened. So she's not going to critically think about it. Paul, he's probably in the same position that he's just going to how can you not believe the prosecutor? How can you believe that his brother's blue brothers and sisters would do this to him? Mandy, Karen can't back out a driveway without hitting John's Traverse, but she can drive 70 feet in reverse at 24 miles an hour. Bring in and shoot potted plants. If Commonwealth doesn't call Trooper Paul, will the defense call him? That's a good question. I mean, it might be worth it just to show how much confusion there is from the government side of the house. Their experts can't even line up with each other. Law says Commonwealth says he was hit at 12:33, and Karen Reed sent her first text at 12:33. John's Bluetooth disconnect from Karen Reed's SUV at 12:30, indicating she was leaving. Karen Reed connects to John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi at 12:36. Theory makes no sense. Okay, somewhere every day you're saying this has to be true, Carl, as it is a signed affidavit with penalty of perjury attached. Well, we don't know that the person that wrote this affidavit is reporting what they were told by another person, so it's all hearsay. So even if this person wrote down truthfully everything they heard, that doesn't mean that what they were told is truthful. But there are some indicators that some of this stuff could be true. Oh, Constitution Free Zone. Okay, thanks, Andy. Thanks for your dad's service. Little misread Velvet. Would I have cross-examined Peggy O'Keefe, as difficult that would be? I don't know. There's really a whole lot of mileage you can get out of that, and so probably not. I wouldn't want to get her in a position where she's going to cry. You don't want to have a mother cry on cross-examination. So I thought the defense did the right thing. There's really she didn't do them any good. I think she actually helped the defense. So if you got the prosecution witness that actually helps you, then just back off and leave it alone. Kate, you're saying that you've been saying that for a year. Yeah, it's stuntman driving. Mandy, no offense, Karen, I've hit things too, but I also couldn't do 70 feet in reverse and hit a target. Yeah, I mean, especially in snowy weather, if you drive fast and just try to go in reverse, and then where was he when this contact was made? Was he on the street? Was he up where? I mean, where was he at when he supposedly got hit? They can't even say that. So this whole accident reconstruction stuff is just garbage in, garbage out. They don't know where he was at. They don't know how he would have been hit because he wasn't hit. But even if they wanted to come up with a theory how he's hit, they don't have any evidence to back it up. So it's just all fictitious, imaginary dreaming of how they think it might have happened. They're just cooking it up. It's not real. It's not accurate. Sam is asking, do I believe Hank knew Kerry was going to fail on the stand and just let her fall like Proctor? No, I don't think so. I think he's trying really hard to keep people lined up according to the script he's wanting them to follow. And so, no, he's doing everything he can to prop these witnesses up. Wow, we've gone over 2 hours. So I'll go ahead and take one more question. I didn't realize we've been going on that long here. You guys have some great questions. Justice, you're asking, did I see Brendan's face when Jackson declined to cross examine Peggy? He looked bad for calling her, in my opinion. No, I did not notice his face. But yeah, he's probably maybe a little shocked that happened. So anyway, I plan to cover it Monday, and not sure if I'll do a live stream or not, but for sure I'll have a wrap up in the evening. So that's what I think I'll mostly be doing, is wrap up in the evening. So with that, you all have a great Saturday night, and I'll see you back here hopefully Monday. Take care. Have a good night. Be safe.